Thank you for being here, Emilia. I wanted to start off the conversation by letting know the audience what we did this weekend. So, Emilia and I went together to the protests outside the Russian consulate and walked all the way to the United Nations headquarters.
Stand with Ukraine! Stand with Ukraine! Stand with Ukraine!
You want to tell me a bit more about how you were feeling during that moment?
I think there were a series of feelings, but that kind of everything was together. But on one side, I feel like, of course, there's this importance of knowing that there's not, I don't feel like there's much I can do. And I think when you deal with that frustration, then sometimes protesting is a way of, like, I guess, being busy and dealing with that importance. So I definitely felt that. But then when I got there, I think there's a side of like condemning and being sad for all the grief that is around you, because you could clearly see that a lot of people were in pain beyond the people that you know and beyond the people that you imagine, but you could see it there physically. I think it was also very present for me, the frustration with this selective empathy and this selective solidarity that I think has been very clear in this situation and in this war. And I think that was always in the back of my mind, like how painful it must be to live through a similar war situation, similar violent like genocidal attempt or genocide over your community or your country or your people, and having the world be silent about that suffering. So I think that silence was very loud in that protest as well.
Could you share with me a little bit more about the silence that you're referring to?
I think it's like the silence in general of the international community, and that reflects on the silences of all institutions, mostly, from the smallest to the biggest. And I think NYU is a good start on that. Like the same silence that you see in NYU's solidarity towards Ukraine, but not towards Palestine, for example, is the exact silence that was represented in that protest, of thinking how many of these people who are here protesting against the war and against the violence against Ukrainians would be protesting on the streets against the violence that Israel commits, or against the violence happening in Yemen and everything. So I think the frustration and the everything with this war is also realizing that it never stopped. Like, it never stopped. The wars never stopped. It's very discouraging to see that we can all together, and that I can normalize a war situation to the point of not questioning it every day, you know? Even if you think about it, like, if you have privilege enough, you can ignore that there's war happening, and that there has been war happening this whole time. That's why the narrative around this being Third World War is very enraging for me, because like I was reading what this political geographer from a country in the Middle East, I don't remember where he's from, but he writes about the fact that what really defines a world war, and if you're going to define it by the involvement of several countries, then this is definitely not the third.
Could you clarify a bit more to me, why wouldn't this be the third?
Because there have been many other occupations and conflicts and wars, not conflicts, but occupations and wars in which several countries have been involved, like the ones I mentioned, you know. I think it is a very white supremacist time scale, and it has been, like, I think we call it bad journalism to all these, reports from media that are coming out of people saying
people are hiding out in bomb shelters. But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
It's not like Afghanistan, it's not like Syria, it's white kids with blue eyes, as if that requires more empathy and that's more outraging, or this is a European city, I never expected it to happen here. They are bad media, obviously, and they're bad reporting, but they're also how the world operates. And they're also the symbol of all the politics that are around these wars, you know? So unfortunately, they're about a lot more than bad reporting or one or two bad reporters. What are all the wars that we're leaving out? It would be the continuation of a very Eurocentric history in which war in Europe is world war, and war anywhere else is a local country-specific war, you know?
Yes, I get that. I don't want to take more of your time because I know you're a busy person. I wanted to tell you thank you so much for sharing. These were the thoughts of Emilia Vieira Branco. They are a student from NYU Abu Dhabi studying away in New York.
I study history and theater. I work a lot with queerness, like in, I guess, in arts and also in history. Silences from my own history and from the history in Portugal, which is where I'm from.
Together, the world is with us. God is with us.
In the face of seeing another imperial power act upon another country, which in this case is Russia, on Ukraine, it's crazy how people can continue to be acritical about our own contexts. In the case of you coming from a country that is a colonial power, or that was a colonial power, but still perpetuates colonialism. And also we're in the US, you know.
Of course, recognizing that the US also has a history of imperialism and neocolonialism, right?
Yeah.
International coalition, anti-coalition coalition.